Hey everybody, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we are talking about sunrooms.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, those gorgeous places where you can soak up the sun all year round. Well, not all year round.
Right.
Sometimes just 3 seasons. But still, you get that gorgeous natural light, and you get to enjoy the outdoors without actually being outdoors.
Yeah.
So today, we're going to be talking all about sunrooms. We're going to be breaking down how much they cost and how to plan your budget accordingly.
Sounds good.
And you know what? I was doing a little bit of research for this deep dive, and I found out some really interesting stuff.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Like, did you know that the price range can be absolutely wild?
I mean, I can imagine.
It could go from like
Yeah.
do-it-yourself kits that are relatively affordable
Right.
all the way up to these like super high-end custom builds that could cost you an arm and a leg.
Yeah, you can really go crazy with it.
And then location. Apparently location plays a big role too.
Makes sense.
You know, certain areas are just more expensive than others.
Yeah.
And we're even going to be sharing some cost-saving tips. So if you're thinking about adding a sunroom to your home, you definitely do not want to miss this deep dive.
I'm excited to learn more.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Let's dive right in. How much should in-no budget for a sunroom?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. But don't worry, we're going to break it all down. And by the end of this, you'll have a much better understanding of the factors involved so you can create a budget that works for you.
That sounds great. Okay, so first things first, before we even start talking numbers, let's make sure we're all on the same page about what a sunroom actually is. How much should in-no budget for a sunroom?
Okay, so let's start with the basics. A sunroom is essentially a three-season room that kind of merges indoor comfort with outdoor beauty. It's a space where you can enjoy the natural light and the views without being exposed to the elements.
Okay, so it's not just like slapping some windows onto the side of your house.
Exactly. There's a lot of thought and craftsmanship that goes into it. And speaking of craftsmanship, I came across a company called Sunspace Charleston.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them. They have a really good reputation.
Yeah, they're known for their high-quality work, and they really focus on creating custom sunrooms that meet the specific needs of their clients.
That's cool. I actually have a friend who had Sunspace Charleston build a sunroom for them a few years ago, and it is absolutely stunning.
Oh, wow.
It's like this seamless extension of their living space, but with all that gorgeous natural light,
It's amazing.
it really is. How much should a null budget for a sunroom?
Well, it makes me want to start drawing up plans for my own sunroom. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about those costs.
Yeah, let's break it down.
Yeah.
What are the big ticket items that people should be aware of?
Okay, so one of the first decisions you'll need to make is whether to go with a prefabricated kit or a custom build.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so
That's different. Well, prefabricated kits are basically like sunrooms in a box. They come with all the materials you need, and they're designed to be assembled on site.
So kind of like a giant Lego set.
You could say that. They're generally more budget-friendly.
Okay, so that makes sense. How much would a prefabricated kit typically cost?
You're looking at anywhere from around $5,000 to $15,000.
Wow. That's actually not as bad as I thought.
Yeah, it can be a pretty affordable option, especially if you're on a tighter budget.
But I guess you're probably limited in terms of design flexibility.
That's right. With a kit, you're pretty much stuck with what they give you.
Okay, so if you're picturing something really unique, a custom build is the way to go.
Exactly.
How much should in-below budget for a sunroom?
With a custom build, you have complete control over the design. You can choose the size, the shape, the materials. You can even add special features, like skylights or fireplaces.
Ooh, a fireplace in a sunroom. That sounds so cozy.
Right.
Okay, but I imagine custom builds are significantly more expensive.
They can be. A mid-range custom sunroom will typically run you somewhere between $15,000 and $40,000. And if you're going all out with high-end materials and all the bells and whistles, you could easily be looking at $40,000 to $80,000 or more.
Wow, that's quite a price range.
Yeah, it really depends on your vision and your budget.
Okay, so we've talked about prefab kits and custom builds, and it seems like there's a pretty big difference in cost. But there are probably other factors that can affect the price too.
Absolutely.
How much should a null budget for a sunroom?
Things like the size of the sunroom, the type of materials you use, and even your location can all play a role.
Oh yeah, location.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. I hadn't really thought about that before.
But think about it. Labor costs can vary from region to region.
That's true, and the cost of materials can fluctuate too.
Exactly. And then there are things like building codes, which can be different depending on where you live.
Okay, so it's not just about the sunroom itself.
Right. It's about all these external factors that can come into play.
And speaking of external factors, how much should a budget for a sunroom?
Let's not forget about things like permits and inspections.
Oh, yeah. Those are important.
Definitely. You'll need to factor those costs into your budget as well.
Makes sense. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but I feel like we're just scratching the surface.
We are. There's so much more to discuss.
How much should a budget for a sunroom?
But I think this is a good place to take a break.
Okay, sounds good. We'll be back in a few minutes to delve even deeper into the world of sunrooms.
Can't wait.
All right, so we're back, and we're ready to dive even deeper.
Let's do it.
How much should budget for a sunroom? Before the break, we were talking about location and how it can affect sunroom costs.
Right.
And I have to admit, I'm
Uh-huh.
still kind of wrapping my head around that.
Yeah, it's not always something people think about,
Mm-hmm.
but it can make a big difference.
So can you give us like a concrete example?
Sure, so let's go back to Sunspace Charleston, the company we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, they're based in Charleston, South Carolina, right?
Exactly. And they said that a sunroom project in Charleston might cost a different amount compared to, say, a similar project in Hilton Head.
Oh, wow. Hilton Head, that's like a totally different vibe.
Yeah, it's a popular vacation destination, known for its beaches and golf courses.
So are you saying that building a sunroom in Hilton Head would be more expensive than building one in Charleston?
It could be. It really depends on a lot of factors.
How much should a budget for a sunroom?
But it just goes to show that location can have a real impact on pricing.
That's fascinating. All right, so let's move on to another big factor that can affect sunroom costs: windows.
Oh, yes, windows.
How much should a budget for a sunroom?
They are a huge part of the equation.
I mean, they're basically the whole point of a sunroom, right?
You want to maximize the natural light
Oh, yeah.
and enjoy the views.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
what are some of the different window options,
Yeah.
and how do they affect the price?
Well, you've got your basic single-pane windows,
Yeah.
which are the most affordable.
Okay. But they're not very energy efficient.
That's right. Then you've got double-glazed windows, which have 2 panes of glass with a layer of air or gas in between.
So that helps with insulation.
Exactly. Double-glazed windows are more expensive than single-pane, but they can save you money on your energy bills in the long run.
Okay, so it's a trade-off. Higher upfront cost, but lower operating costs over time.
Exactly.
And then, what about triple glazed windows?
Yes, triple-glazed windows. Those are like the Rolls-Royce of windows. They have 3 panes of glass, and they offer the highest level of insulation.
So they're the most energy efficient.
Absolutely. But they're also the most expensive.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do you decide? Which type of window is right for you?
Well, it depends on your budget, your climate, and how much you value energy efficiency.
Okay, so if you live in a really cold climate, triple glazed windows might be a good investment.
Yeah, they'll keep your sunroom warm and cozy, even on the coldest winter days.
But if you live in a more temperate climate,
Hmm.
double glazed windows might be sufficient.
That's right.
How much should budget for a sunroom?
And if you're on a tight budget, single-pane windows are always an option.
All right, so we've talked about windows. What about other materials?
Oh, yeah, there are a lot of choices to make when it comes to materials.
Like what?
Well, for the framing, you've got options like aluminum, wood, and vinyl.
Okay, and each material has its pros and cons.
Absolutely. Aluminum is durable and low maintenance, but it can be more expensive. Wood is classic and beautiful, but it requires more upkeep. And vinyl is affordable and energy efficient, but it's not as strong as aluminum or wood.
Okay, so again, it's all about finding the right balance
Mhm.
between cost and performance.
Exactly.
And then what about the roofing?
Well, for the roofing, you can choose from materials like shingles, metal, or even glass.
Ooh, a glass roof.
Yeah, that would be
Ooh.
amazing. Imagine all that natural light pouring in.
But I bet that would be pretty expensive.
It can be,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a showstopper.
All right, so we talked about framing, roofing, windows. What else is there?
Well, there's the flooring.
Oh, yeah, the flooring. You mentioned that earlier.
Right. There are a lot of options for sunroom flooring,
How much should a budget for a sunroom?
like tile, hardwood, laminate, even concrete.
Concrete in a sunroom.
Yeah, it's becoming more popular. It gives it a modern industrial look.
Okay, I can see that. So, how do you decide which flooring is right for you?
Well, it depends on your style, your budget,
Yeah.
and how you plan to use the sunroom.
All right, so we've covered a lot of the major materials,
Mm-hmm.
but there are probably other costs. that we haven't even talked about yet.
There are
How much should a know budget for a sunroom?
things like electrical work, plumbing, and
That's
insulation.
all those hidden costs.
Exactly. They can really add up.
So it's important to factor them into your budget.
Absolutely.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part. We've talked about location, windows, and materials, and all those hidden costs.
Right.
How much should a know budget for a sunroom?
But there's still more to come.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In the next part, we're going to talk about some cost-saving tips and some things to consider beyond the initial construction cost.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Let's take another break, and we'll be right back. All right, so we're back for the final part of our sunroom deep dive, and I'm really excited about this part.
Oh, yeah. Why is that?
Well, because we're going to be talking about those intangible benefits of having a sunroom.
Ah, yes, the things you can't really put a price tag on.
Exactly. But they add so much value to our lives.
Absolutely.
How much should an old budget for a sunroom?
We've talked a lot about the financial aspects, but the emotional and psychological returns are equally important.
You know, I was actually reading a study recently about how exposure to natural light can boost mood and energy levels.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of it.
It's like a natural antidepressant.
Right. And who doesn't need a little more of that?
Seriously.
Yeah.
And to have a sunroom where you can just soak up those rays without having to deal with bugs or bad weather, that's just pure bliss.
I totally agree.
How much should an old budget for a sunroom?
And it's not just about the light. Bringing nature closer to home has been shown to reduce stress, improve cognitive function, and even boost our immune systems.
Wow, that's amazing. So, by creating a sunroom that seamlessly blends indoor and outdoor living, you're essentially investing in your health and well-being.
Exactly. You're creating a space that nourishes your soul as well as your home.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people envision their sunroom as the place for hobbies and leisure activity.
That makes sense.
How much should in a low budget for a sunroom?
It's a great space for that.
What are some of the ways that people can maximize the enjoyment of their sunroom based on their interests?
Well, the beauty of a sunroom is its versatility. It can be whatever you want it to be.
Okay, so give us some examples.
Sure, you can turn it into a cozy reading nook with a comfy chair and a good book.
I would love that.
Or you could set up an art studio with plenty of natural light for painting or drawing.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Oh,
Or maybe a yoga studio where you can practice your poses.
we're surrounded by nature.
That sounds so peaceful.
It does, doesn't it? You could even create a plant paradise with all your favorite greenery.
Oh my gosh, yes.
The possibilities are endless.
It really is all about letting your imagination run wild and creating a space that reflects your personality and passions.
Exactly.
How much should in all budget for a sunroom? So we've come to the end of our sunroom deep dive. And I have to say, I've learned so much.
Me too.
We've covered everything from budgeting and design to energy efficiency and sustainability. And of course, those amazing intangible benefits
Right.
that make sunrooms so special. I hope our listeners have found this deep dive informative and inspiring,
Yeah.
and maybe even a little bit life-changing.
Me too.
Remember, a sunroom is more than just an addition to your home. It's an investment in your happiness and well-being.
That's a great way to put it.
So if you're dreaming of a sun-drenched space where you can relax, rejuvenate, and connect with nature, take the first step today. Start planning, start dreaming, and start creating the sunroom of your dreams.
And don't forget, if you're in the Charleston area, be sure to reach out to Sunspace Charleston.
They're the experts in creating custom sunrooms that bring joy and beauty to homes and lives.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of sunrooms. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the things that matter most to you.
See you on the next dive.